This is David Dubal, and I'm absolutely delighted at this moment to be talking and sitting, of course, in front of one of the very great pianists playing before the public, Russell Sherman. And Russell Sherman will be playing in New York December 3rd at Carnegie Hall, 8 o'clock. Am I right?
8 o'clock is right.
You'll be there?
Yes, I'll be there.
Well, I'll be there too, Russell. Your program, as always, is a deep program, an interesting program. I love the Rondo in C major, Opus 51, number 1, and it really, it programs so well with the great Opus 109, and then probably my favorite Beethoven Sonata in certain ways.
You too?
Yeah, 101.
Really?
Well,
I thought it was just a closet a desire of mine to love that piece so much, but I do think that in terms of comprehending the full gamut of laughter, madness, humbleness, spirituality,
certain joy,
and glee, and the Groucho Marx of Beethoven, the Falstaff of Beethoven, I think 101 really takes the cake, as you wrote about Opus 22. You remember when he finished that, he said, this one really takes the cake.
He was proud of Opus 22.
Yes. And he should have been.
Yeah. I'm even more proud, though, of 101 and that wonderful march, which Schumann must have loved so much.
Yes, but I don't think it's quite so Teutonic as sometimes as it is played. In fact, I wrote program notes, and I said it's as much Macy's Day Parade as it is Conquering Hero, because it's full of ludicrous scenes and ridiculous asides, and I even said that the trio reminded me of a colony of ants on the inside of the bass drum doing their intricate little love dance in canon, of course, beautifully in canon, the way ants work, you know.
Yes, absolutely, perfectly social.
Yes.
They work it out perfectly, as Beethoven did. Russell, that first half is magnificent. I want to review it for our audience because it's the C major Rondo, the E major Sonata 109, beloved by the world. Perhaps a little more cryptic is the A major Opus 101, which we both love so much. And we then get an intermission. And then, of course, the composer, who so many people think of you as, well, he's with you all the time. His name is Franz Liszt. And your recordings on Vanguard of the Transcendental Etudes, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're classic recordings. Well, you'll be playing on December 3rd the Liszt Sonata in B minor, and two small pieces, the Cradle Song, 1881, and the most amazing piece, La Lugubre Gondola, number 1, 1882. That's where Liszt had a premonition that his son-in-law Wagner was dying. Am I right? When he
Perhaps
wrote those?
That's your expertise, but certainly it is about prophecies and death, and it lingers in that symbolic ocean of retreat and darkness which is in all our souls, and does it in a quite fantastical and morbid way as it sort of grooves in on one augmented harmony, can do nothing with it except drop it one tone down the scale, still drop it one tone further down the scale, and thus plunges off into the abyss that way, and sets up much of the music of the 20th century, I think.
Doesn't it, yes.
In all of that late list, I think there's something so understanding of the anomie and of the complete vertigo, you know,
yes,
the nausea of this century. But at the same time, the B minor Sonata, I think, is very good testimony to his respect and love for Beethoven. And I find Liszt to be a very great student of Beethoven.
Yes.
And that's why I think he's a very splendid composer, because he learned his lessons well.
I think Arau once called the Liszt Sonata Beethoven's 33rd.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a work that is just set up perfectly by these two early pieces. Now, how do you program a recital as important as Carnegie Hall? Must be agonizing.
It is and it isn't. I mean, the programs are put together usually, I think, on too much of an impromptu basis of medley. Let's do our favorite medley, and we'll do a little classic and a little Baroque, and then we will stick in a sonata, make a little nocturne for the older people, and then finish with a flash dance, you know.
Yes.
And I've done those medley programs, mostly in New York, and I've seen, in retrospect, that they were concessions to a taste which I think I and other people don't share, and it's silly to keep going in that direction. Here I just wanted to make a statement that Beethoven and Liszt are very compatible, that Liszt is a good friend of Beethoven, that these are two composers that I love wrestling with because they're both so problematical and one can never get to the end of them. And that's what I love to play in music that I don't understand.
Oh, that's wonderful. You are a very deep man, and indeed you probe the depths in your recordings. And I want to begin, Russell. Russell Sherman is my guest tonight. I want to begin with a new Pro Arte digital release, and it's none other. Well, it's a wonderful, wonderful recording because it has the entire Opus 116 of Brahms, but it also has that classic of piano technique, the Variations on a Theme by Paganini. And I thought it would be wonderful to begin with at least Book 2 of that recording of yours.
If I could mention, it seems to me that Book 1 is more testament to the possibilities of the piano, or the impossibilities of the piano, and Book 2 is more the violin technique. And that's why I think it makes a nice split, and why I believe in playing the theme before the second book.
Yes.
Some people, and I can understand, play the theme once and then just go through the whole set of variations. But I believe these are two separate books with two separate textures in mind.
It's very interesting, and I agree with you. I'd like to ask you this question. Do you like your recording? It's brand new.
Yes, this one I like. Other ones I'm skeptical about.
Don't tell the audience
that,
I won't. Though, of course.
I won't reveal that. My company would be angry with me.
But everyone, of course, every artist says the same thing.
Oh, yes. It's a torture to listen to one's recordings. And it makes perfect sense. It isn't because we're thoroughly hysterical. Well, we are. But in this case, it makes sense because we hear the music in different ways. If we have the gumption and the conviction to go out and to perform, it doesn't make any sense to keep imitating the same performance over and over again. It's because we believe in the possibility that creation creates, that it keeps changing, and that we will catch the element in the music which is elaborating, growing, changing as we perform. So a few months later, after the recording, we hear and feel in a quite different way. I think it's quite logical. I don't think it's just simply paranoid.
Wonderfully logical, actually. We're going to hear it now. Russell Sherman, the pianist, in a performance of Book 2 from his new Pro Arte digital release of the Brahms Paganini Variations, Opus 35, a legendary work of the piano literature. You have just heard Russell Sherman in a performance of Book 2 of the Brahms Paganini Variations from his new recording of that complete work, as well as the Fantasies Opus 116. And Russell, we have to take a moment for a commercial or two, and if you will wait, we'll talk again in a minute.
With pleasure.
This is David Dubal, and my guest is Russell Sherman. Russell Sherman is a very busy man, not only concertizing, but he is a great reader. He is interested in many things, I would say. Music is not really, of course, that's your main preoccupation in life, but music is one aspect of you as a person. Am I right?
Well, to this extent, David, and I think it's true of my colleagues also, music is the focus through which we interpret the rest of our existence, and all those disciplines and images which occur to us by investigating the world through literature, through art, through our experience, as we understand nature, as we look at the universe, and the micro worlds of cooking and finance.
Right. Russell, you have just had the great privilege of recording all the 5 Beethoven concertos, landmarks in the piano concerto repertory. Tell me about that moment in your life.
Well, it is a privilege, and it happened by the interest and courtesy of the company which has been producing my work, Pro Arte, and they sent me to Prague, to Czechoslovakia, to record the concerti with the Czech National Philharmonic, which is a wonderful orchestra conducted by Václav Neumann. And I had not been to Prague. It is the most beautiful city in the world because it is steeped in such history.
I've heard that.
And has such an unbelievable sense of proportion and color which sweeps gently up from the river, the Vltava, which dissects the city. And it is full of churches and Baroque and Gothic facades of exquisite color and texture. So it was very inspiring. And they're wonderful people, great Stoic people, and they have survived and they have prevailed. And this orchestra is full of friendly souls, and I'm reminded now of the principal second violinist, a man with not much hair and an owlish face, very friendly, and sitting right next to me. And every time he liked a passage, he would rub his feet vigorously on the floor, and that meant something passionate was coming through. And that was my my test, if I could make him rub his feet in that vigorous way.
Oh, that's
I knew
wonderful.
I was doing something right.
Wonderful.
But they play with a lot of heart and warmth and fire, and I feel some of the spirit of that music may have gotten caught into these records, I hope.
Russell, I know this, that of the 5 concertos that you've recorded, number 1 and 2 are coming out very shortly, so I can't wait to hear them.
Thank you.
Now, you're also doing for Pro Arte all the Beethoven sonatas?
Yes, that is the eventual plan.
What an achievement.
That's the eventual
Well,
plan.
I know that I have right in front of me, I have the Apassionata, and I have the Waldstein and the Opus 109, which you'll be playing on your recital December 3rd. But I have also Opus 10, number 3, one of the early works. And of course, we have only time to taste the piece. So let's play, if you don't mind, the last movement of Opus 10, number 3.
Thank you very much.
The artist is Russell Sherman, my guest tonight. What a superb work. Opus 10, number 3. We can only, unfortunately, hear Russell Sherman's performance of just that movement because we have to talk to him and so forth. It does, Russell, have one of the great slow movements, though, doesn't it? The piece we just heard.
Yes, Tovey, who said so many wonderful and outrageous things, described it as the first piece of tragic music ever composed. Now, I'm not sure what he meant by tragic, bypassing the B minor Mass and a few other works along the way, but in that sense of its eloquence and heartfelt suffering, it is certainly one of the most attractive and beautiful pieces.
I am so sorry we cannot hear the whole sonata right now because you know the work is tragic. Probably, I think he meant in the 19th century sense of the word.
Perhaps, yeah.
But it is certainly composed in 1796 as some incredible piece, and we can all hear it on your Pro Arte recording, which also has the ever popular Apassionata, which is one of your favorites too. I mean, the public will never get tired of the Apassionata, will it?
Well, it was one of Beethoven's favorites also.
Yes.
So I think he was a very good critic of his music.
He surely
I
was.
trust his judgment.
Russell, you are playing at Carnegie Hall, a formidable program. The Liszt Sonata, 2 Beethoven sonatas, 2 late Beethoven sonatas.
You think I
and
should
other
charge
works.
2 admissions?
I think that you should continue having the admission that you're going to have, but you should scold anyone you know that doesn't show up.
Oh, really? I must leave that to you, David.
What else is going on? You are playing everywhere. You are recording the Beethoven sonatas for Pro Arte. You're playing in New York, Carnegie Hall. Should I ask you some deep questions like, what is beauty to you? That could take hours, though.
It could, and it could take seconds, because I might have absolutely no answer, being totally nonplussed by the question. But I think I would say this, and that is that there is more truth in the formula of beauty than one would credit from the point of view of the purely aesthetic dimension. That is, in music, character is beauty. Mm-hmm. And character sometimes means, and in Beethoven too, sounds which are not agreeable, not pretty, even
101 is not always pretty, that's for sure.
No, even sometimes sounds that are ruthless, that have even a certain vulgarity, a certain roughness, a certain aggressiveness. But it is that grasping for character and the chemistry which makes the creation come alive. If it's always beautiful, that's the part of being a musician and teaching music, which I think we have to be careful about. It's not just simply a serenade to beautiful and lovely sound.
Yes.
I think that's quite dangerous.
It's a wonderful answer for such a very unexpected question.
It was unexpected.
And was it a wonderful question?
Answer?
Answer?
To your
Are you
audience.
happy? Are you happy with your answer? Now, getting to the more practical world, from beauty and character down to the sheer hard work it takes to keep a masterpiece in the fingers. Are you working all the time at the piano? Is it?
I am a good soldierly worker.
Mm-hmm.
I work hard. I love to work because I think the piano is an eternal mystery. After all, it is a ridiculous black box, sometimes brown, and it's built of lots of little pieces of wood and felt and stuck together with glue and wire. And something tragic must come from this source. And it's uncanny how it can sometimes function. And we've heard these great artists of the past and of the present. And you've heard these encore pieces of Rachmaninoff, for instance. Doesn't it bring tears to your eyes how a piano can sound like that, so transfigured? So there's always this detective game going on. How do you unlock that secret? I like to work. I love to work. And I have a few students, and some have done very well. But to me, that's the first thing, to try to communicate the pleasure to work, and the feeling we're damn lucky to be pianists and to deal with the whole dimension of existence and not to have one of these very specialized jobs which nowadays makes the economy go but shrinks the soul.
Eloquent man you are, Russell Sherman. Do you like, now we have heard a wonderful answer, but do you like the actual stage, the communication with the people, or would you rather be alone doing it?
That's a very good question, and it's one that I continuously ask myself. If I probe to the level where I think I can find a compatible truth, compatible, that is, to bring those two polarities together, it's not for me a question of going out and throwing bouquets at the audience. I don't think it's quite satisfactory to say to the audience, listen to me, I'm going to do something quite extraordinary, and don't get in my way. I think it's a question of, here we have an opportunity to listen to quite a beautiful essay in thought and in sound. Let's share as we try to probe and understand this piece. It is a sharing in a common search, a search that the audience feels, the pianist articulates, but that is just as desperate for both parties on either side of the stage. That, I think, is the common property which binds the performer to the audience.
Russell, are we, as a world now, are pianists feeling good about their place in society? Have you, from your teaching, from your own playing, have you talked to many young people and found out how they feel about their moving into the world of music?
Yes and no, not good enough. The competition is ferocious. The world is on a fuse, ready to pop, and the economy doesn't afford many places. The thing to remember and to revere is that the profession of music gives distance from these immediate travails. Yes, we have to scrape and break even and make a living in a company and play for ballerinas and for guitars and all sorts of things to get it going, and teach little brats sometimes too. But I think we're very lucky, and I believe that people, when they get beyond this current period, which is a little intimidated by the pressure of recordings, the pressure of the older instruments, the pressure of the ur-text, which is terribly important and therapeutic and salutary, but can get back to a little more feeling of unleashing their imagination in the performance, will realize that this is one of the happiest existences we have. Let the chips fall where they may. We may make it, we may not make it. It's still a pretty good way to go.
Russell, so wonderful to hear you speak. We're going to hear now one of those 24 masterworks that occupy the Opus 28 of Chopin, and I thought it would be wonderful to hear the D Minor Prelude. Would you like that?
Very well, thank you.
From one of your, well, I think it's the most recent of your recordings.
Yes,
Chopin
yes.
Preludes Complete. It also contains the Barcarole, of which one of my favorite works we're going to hear just a bit later. Here is Russell Sherman in the D minor, the Apassionata of Chopin. Oh, what an overwhelming work. The new Pro Arte recording by my guest Russell Sherman of the Chopin 24th Prelude in D Minor. And Russell Sherman is here talking to me. He's also going to be back in New York December 3rd to play a massive and wonderful recital at Carnegie Hall. We'll be right back after this message. My guest tonight, Russell Sherman. We have heard Brahms, Beethoven, Chopin, and we're going to continue with Frederic Chopin in the Barcarole, one of his later works. And I would call this a piece that is mysterious to me as any other piece of music. It seems so ineffective when you look at it on the score. When you just turn the page, how does the piano make this happen? And
well, one thing one has to remember, as many have said, the pedals are the soul of the instrument, and it is a study in luminous textures, and it can only be contrived by some chemistry of mixing the sounds.
Are there days when you feel you just don't have it in you to be an alchemist?
Not only days, but pianos, if I may say so.
And this, of course, is this piece is like the father of Impressionism, in a way.
Yes.
So
very well put. But over that, the sun shines, and this little Neapolitan folk tune intrudes and creates a great apotheosis. But then that last page, and I would tell you about my teacher Steuermann. You know how it ends with these octaves, bum, beam, bum, bum, forte. And he said, well, now if you want to do it in the old tradition, you play the first set, forte, bum, bum, and then piano, bum, bum. Very lightly, aristocratically. Well, I never dared to do that, but it would be nice once to try.
Why not try?
In the old style.
Well, you know, that brings up the point. The tradition in piano playing is a tremendous thing. If it's not in the score, God forbid you attempt it at this time in the 21st century. We're really in the 21st century now. And who would care if you did it?
Yes, but the score, and particularly in Chopin, what is the score? There are so many scores. I mean, I just happened to notice today the third prelude, which ends the runs going up with a diminuendo. But in a copy that Mr. Weissman had, there's a crescendo there, not a diminuendo. And so the music contains many seeds, some of which are quite opposite to the printed thought. One cannot willfully change it. One has to recognize the underworld and the underground behind the printed score.
I understand. You mentioned, and we have a minute more to talk, one of the great teachers, Steuermann. How was he as potent in your life as he was in many?
I was 11 years old, and he taught me how to play chess, among other things. But he was a wonderful mind and a wonderful man, very gracious, very noble, and he had a beautiful sense of irony, so that he could explain why materials and different viewpoints complemented each other, not simply contradicted. And if I would ask the question, should I do it A or should I do B? And he would say, why not both? And this was the major lesson that I learned from him, to embrace all the possibilities.
Oh, that's a wonderful lesson. Russell, we are going to listen now to the Barcarole of Chopin, and it's from your new recording, and I certainly hope that you like it.
I hope so too, but for the time being I'll suspend judgment and go on to some other project.
Let's listen to Russell Sherman right this minute. just heard the great Chopin Barcarole, Opus 60, I believe, and right after this message, we'll come back with one little concluding benediction from my guest, Russell Sherman. This is David Dubal, and it's been wonderful talking to you, Russell. I wish you the best of luck on December 3rd when you will be playing first half Beethoven, second half Liszt, and best of luck.
Thank you very much. It's been most enjoyable.
This is David Dubal. Thank you for listening.